You wouldn't think that works written for young people could stir up so much drama. Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 controversial children's books.
Milk in the batter, milk in the batter. We bake cake and nothing's the matter.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. For this list, we're looking at challenged and banned books that were written for either children or young adult audiences. We're also including books that typically appear on high school curricula.
You're gonna let this one review stop you from writing? That's crazy.
Number 10, The Butter Battle Book, Dr. Seuss. This is one Dr. Seuss book that won't be getting the big screen treatment anytime soon. Author Theodore Seuss Ted Geisel is known for putting allegories and moralistic messages in his children's picture books, but they don't always have as direct a political message as this one.
Eventually, each side develops its own egg-shaped bomb capable of annihilating the other. For the first time in his career, Ted Geisel received hate mail from parents who accused him of scaring their children with the prospect of Armageddon.
At the time of publication, deciding which side of your bread to butter was seen as content unsuitable for young readers.
And in every Zook house and in every Zook town, every Zook eats his bread with the butter, side down.
That's because the story told in the Butter Battle book paralleled the arms race taking place between the United States and Soviet Russia in the mid-1980s. Despite the passage of time, this continues to be controversial, as its message of people irrevocably divided still resonates with many. Number 9, The Witches, Roald Dahl. If you read this book when you were a little kid, you very likely have memories of being straight up terrified by it. But the scariness factor is not the reason Roald Dahl's young reader novel The Witches was one of the most challenged books of the early 80s.
It must be exterminated immediately!
And it also wasn't the fact that it dealt with witchcraft. In fact, many libraries considered the story to be sexist, teaching children to vilify women. Other critics, however, have called it, quote, an unlikely source of inspiration for feminists. Because this one is all about what you choose to get out of it.
You dare to argue with me?
Number 8, James and the Giant Peach, Roald Dahl. By the time he published The Witches, Roald Dahl was actually no stranger to having his books stir up controversy. James and the Giant Peach was one of the author's earlier works, and has a long laundry list of accusations against it.
When I had a problem, my mum and dad would tell me to look at it another way.
What caused this seemingly innocent story of a boy traveling in a giant peach to be challenged by many at the time of publication and for decades afterwards? According to Book People, its supposed crimes include, quote, mysticism, sexual inferences, profanity, racism, tobacco and alcohol references, and promoting disobedience, drugs, and communism. Maybe this one's worth a reread as an adult.
Well, that goes without saying.
Number 7, The Giver, Lois Lowry. This dystopian novel was making its way onto many middle school curricula long before dystopian stories were cool. The Giver is a favorite of many young readers, and is often remembered as a first foray into this particular brand of sci-fi. There are many controversial aspects of the story, though, which caused it to be one of the most banned children's books in the decade it was published. The top reason it was challenged? Parents deemed it, quote, unsuitable for its age group, meaning the subject matter was too dark.
When people have the freedom to choose, they choose wrong every single time.
The movie didn't generate the same controversy, which maybe means it's not the best adaptation.
You can take comfort in knowing you are completely helpless.
Number 6, Bridge to Terabithia, Katherine Patterson. The book you probably remember as one of the saddest reads of your childhood is also one of the most frequently challenged. As a matter of fact, the American Library Association lists Bridge to Terabithia as the 8th most challenged book of the 1990s. The biggest reason is due to its portrayal of the death of a child and the emotional aftermath.
No, you're lying. She's not even dead, you're lying! Jess!
Not to say kids should be sheltered from this sort of content, but this ban at least makes a little more sense than some of the others on our list.
She brought you something special when she came here, didn't she? That's what you hold on to. That's how you keep her alive.
Oh, and it's also been challenged because a character frequently uses the Lord's name in vain.
That whole Jesus thing, it's really interesting, isn't it? It's not interesting. It's scary.
Number 5. Where the Wild Things Are, Maurice Sendak. According to the author of this classic children's picture book, it took several years after publication for schools and libraries to stop banning Where the Wild Things Are. It was challenged for the all-too-common reason of promoting witchcraft, though it's simply about a little boy using his imagination to go to a fantastical world to soothe himself after having a temper tantrum.
Let the wild
One of Sendak's other works, In the Night Kitchen, is also a target of frequent censorship attempts. The reason for those attempts, though, is it has illustrations of full frontal child nudity.
My work has always been considered inappropriate, but the ones that I love, the ones that I think work as works of art and books, are inappropriate.
Number 4. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, Judy Blume. Judy Blume is known for writing some of the most seminal adolescent fiction out there, and perhaps her best-known work is also one of her most frequently challenged.
If kids like it, there must be something wrong, and therefore it should be challenged and possibly removed from schools and libraries. They don't come after books that kids don't like.
Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret was published in 1970 and deals with female sexuality, puberty, feminine hygiene, religion, and a series of other topics that many parents didn't want their teenagers reading about.
I must increase my butts.
Similarly controversial was Forever, also by Bloom, which tackled the subject of teen sexuality head-on, and also touches on homosexuality, depression, and suicide.
When I started to write, I was determined to be honest.
Number 3. To Kill a Mockingbird, Harper Lee. This classic piece of literature may not strictly be a children's book, but because of its frequent inclusion in school reading lists, we're including it today.
You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view.
Sir?
Till you climb inside of his skin, walk around in it.
At least one reason for challenging To Kill a Mockingbird, that it features racist language, is ironic, considering that racism, both overt and systemic, are prominently addressed in the story. In 2017, however, the book was actually banned in a school district in Mississippi because it, quote, makes people uncomfortable, which is problematic in ways we can't even begin to address.
History is uncomfortable. Bad things have happened. Why do we attempt to erase it rather than discuss it?
It's the kind of argument that might make even as wise a man as Atticus Finch scratch his head.
To begin with, this case should never have come to trial. The state has not produced one iota.
Number 2. Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, Mark Twain. Just like To Kill a Mockingbird, this much-loved entry from the canon of American literature has been criticized for the very topic it aimed to dismantle.
It's mainly the truth. Oh, sure, there's a few stretchers here and there, but then I never met anybody who didn't lie a little when the situation suited them.
Adventures of Huckleberry Finn directly addresses racism, but in the many years since its release, many have wondered if it does more harm than good. As is understandable for a work created so long ago, the ideas in it are somewhat dated, as is the language. The N-word features prominently in the text, though at the time of publication, that didn't hold nearly the same significance it does today. Whether this should continue to be taught in schools is still up for debate.
You go back to her, Jim. She owns you, and what's right's right. Besides, you get caught for sure. A slave alone on a raft.
Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are some honorable mentions.
I feel infinite.
Number 1. The Harry Potter series, J.K. Rowling. One of the best-selling pieces of fiction of all time, was also one of the most controversial.
Perfect what can be perfected, and prune practices that ought to be prohibited.
Any serious fan will question the validity of the complaints made against the Harry Potter series, because they know that promoting witchcraft isn't exactly the purpose of the story.
I will not pay to have some crackpot old fool teach him magic tricks.
There are so many positive messages in the series, from the political to the moral, and it promotes an overall theme of love beyond all else. Despite this, many parents attempted to have the book banned, and have at times even gone so far as to have copies of it burned. Don't worry though, because in the end, all was well.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from MsMojo and subscribe for new videos every day.